To Skills Series Becoming a Leader. My name is Jessica Jang and I'm a general member here at Skills Series. So in this workshop, we are going to share experiences of leaders from 3 various leadership roles to get a better understanding of what exactly a leader is and how you can improve your leadership qualities as well. We have 3 amazing speakers to share their knowledge with us today. First is going to be Corey Law. He is a student director of the science faculty at Ontario Tech. Mackenzie Collins, the co-president of Enactus, and Artur, who is an inspiring lead designer at Maxim Health Group. So first we have Corey Law. He's a third-year student at Life Science program. He is a student director of the Faculty of Science at Ontario Tech, and he is also the VP of External Affairs for the Science Council. So whenever you're ready, Corey.
Thank you, Jessica. It's a pleasure to be here with everyone today. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. So I'll just dive right into it. So I chose these leadership roles because I wanted to get involved in the school. After my first year here at Ontario Tech, I realized that there was a big lack of communication between the students and the clubs and councils at the school. I feel like there wasn't too many kind of opportunities or too much promotion, I guess, going on. Compared to other schools. So I was like, you know what, I want to make that change. So I joined the OTSU, Ontario Tech Student Union, as a board of directors, partially because I think that was a very good first step in kind of advocating for change, advocating for students and changing, pretty much change starts at that level as a board of director. I also joined just because I was able to kind of see what's going on more internally of the school. As you guys know, OTSU hosts a lot of the events and a lot of the clubs and societies go through them. So they're a pretty big part of our school. So I think this was the best place to start, and that's kind of how I got into the role at OTSU. The second position that Jess highlighted was the Ontario Tech Science Council. So I joined the Ontario Tech Science Council as a vice president of external affairs. I like talking, I like to meet people. So that's partially why I kind of chose the role of external affairs. I'm a very extroverted person. I like to make friends. I like to talk. That's just kind of my personality. So I joined the Ontario Tech Science Council partially because of that. And also I wanted to kind of work with individuals with similar interests. As a science student, I kind of find like it's sometimes hard to talk to people who are non-science. Sometimes there's a little level like of gap between just similarities. So I definitely think that joining the Science Council allowed me to meet different other people who had similar interests as me. And since I'm a student of the Faculty of Science, I might as well join the Science Council as well, right? Also, because I was part of the OTSU, I kind of joined the Science Council as a way for me to understand another issues, kind of like between the Science Council and the OTSU, since they're two very different organizations levels wise, because the OTSU oversees everything, whereas the Science Council is an individual council just for the Faculty of Science. It was easier for me to kind of expose myself to the different point of views and I guess the issues between different organizations. And basically as a member of both organizations, I was able to kind of see what worked, see what didn't, and kind of put in my ideas and put inputs to see how I could fix that. So that's kind of why I chose these leadership roles. In terms of balancing schoolwork with these leadership responsibilities, I kind of create a to-do list. That's personally how I like to manage everything. So I like to create a to-do list, and every day I go through that to-do list and see what I have to do and what's urgent and what's not urgent. I kind of like to place my priorities with importance of higher level, of course, priorities. So yeah, I do that, and I maintain my balance of schoolwork, work itself, and leisure, just to maintain a healthy lifestyle. I think the pandemic's got everyone kind of depressed lately, especially because of the winter. There's long nights, short days, less sunlight, and I definitely think that plays a huge role in people's effects. So definitely a good way to manage my time. So how did I get these positions? So basically for the OTSU, you go through a application process, which is actually going on right now. So if anyone is actually interested in applying to be a board of director or maybe an executive on the OTSU, right now is definitely a good chance. I think the process is going through right now. If you go through the OTSU website or their Instagram, there's definitely more information. But the application process is pretty much a nomination period where you have to get X amount of people to sign off to nominate you, and then you campaign for a week, and then essentially there's voting. And so last year I got the opportunity to run in this application process, and I ended up getting the position, which I was pretty psyched for, which was good. I got a lot of votes in my favor, which was kind of how I got the position. In terms of the Ontario Tech Science Council, I applied through their application process on their social media. They kind of made their application process is very similar to the way OTSU was, where they have like a nomination process and election process and then a voting process. That's kind of how majority of our school works, if people are not familiar with that. So yeah, that's coming out soon as a council. So yeah, that's how I got into my positions. I feel like joining these organizations has definitely helped me grow a lot as a person, and definitely my skill set over the period of time. As we all know, this year has not been what we were expecting. With COVID and everything, it's been very different, and you actually have to adapt. I think I learned a lot from adapting to the new procedures, the new processes, and kind of thinking on the fly, just to see what would work for a student, what would not. As a VP and as a board of director, it's kind of difficult to kind of think of these things, what works for a student, what doesn't work. But by this time at like the second semester, everyone kind of had a vibe going on already. And so it's definitely helped me learn about some communication. Adapting to situations is something I definitely learned, I think has improved me quite a bit through this year, just because, as I said, COVID, everything's really different and you have to adapt. So I learned a lot. Communication organization skills is something that I've really picked up on. Well, not really picked up, I guess enhanced for the better, because especially online, it's really difficult to kind of communicate with different people since everything's on either Zoom or emails or something. You really have to be on top of these things because these things can be lost really, really quickly. So that's something I really feel like I've learned and can definitely help me in my future career. Professionalism is definitely something I've learned a lot as well. I think being professional in the organization will definitely help me in my future career. And the policies, I don't know if people here are very familiar with policies, but I learned a lot of new policies, the Constitution, bylaws, stuff like that. And I think these skills have definitely helped me and will definitely help me in the future in my career path. And I think they're just skills that everyone should know, because it'll definitely help you a lot in life, and I think definitely helps you get along with others. So yeah, I think that's about it. Is there any other questions, Jess, you have?
Currently, no. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with leadership, as well as the fact that you're taking all these opportunities now for the better of your future as well.
For sure. That's definitely important, I think. Everyone should get on this, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
Great. And now moving on to Mackenzie. Mackenzie Collins is a recent alumni of Ontario Tech University, where she graduated from the Forensic Psychology program. And she was previously the project lead for She Leads, and now she is the co-president of Enactus Ontario Tech. So Mackenzie is currently also a TA in the Business and I.T faculty at Ontario Tech.
Thank you, Jess, and well done, Corey. A lot of what you said resonated a lot with me, particularly how you got started. For me, I was not a leader growing up. I was just a bossy, talkative little girl. And that's kind of who I was as a person for a really long time. And it took a while for me to find the outlet to really kind of grow that bossy side of me and turn it into a polished leader. I do love to talk. I love interacting with people as well, and really trying to bridge connections. Again, that's why I actually chose psychology, so I could really understand people. As Jess said, I am currently co-president of Enactus. It's funny because this is a position I probably would have never seen myself in a few years ago. Like I said, never saw myself as a leader. But what kind of happened is I've always been this person that sees a problem and I want to fix it. I want to, get in there and think about it. And I really want to start brainstorming and figure out where we can innovate, where we can improve efficiency. And just being that person that has the ideas, eventually you get to the point where people kind of start looking to you to bring those ideas. And that's really what happened to me. And as I got more comfortable with being clear about, my ideas and my opinions, I started to get more respect as a leader in turn. And then it kind of just grew to where I am now. In terms of like the logistic sides of how I actually got into my role, I'm going to make a really cheesy quote and say, I started from the bottom and now I'm here, but I really did. I actually started on Enactus as a presentation speaker. It was a temporary role. All I had to do was go speak a competition, had one job, and then go home and got to be part of the Enactus team. But when I get a small role, I really try to put my all into it, because I think even when you're in the smallest positions, it's still a reflection of who you are and your work ethic, no matter what you're doing. So do your best. And that's what I did. And I kind of just, started putting my input in where I could. I started talking to the presidents at the time, really just trying to learn as much as I could about the organization and be involved. And it got some attention. And that is actually when I was given the role of project lead of She Leads, as Jess mentioned, which was my first kind of on paper official leadership role. So something that I think I did most of my learning during that time as a leader, as a project lead of She Leads. And this is something that I like to remind my team members of all the time, especially when we have new project leads coming in. When you start as a leader, you don't know as pretty much anything. I mean, compared to your other members, you might have a little bit more experience, but other than that, it doesn't necessarily mean we know all the answers. We're still just trying to navigate through things like you are. A lot of the times it's just that, that mistake that you made, I already made it 5 times and had to fix it for myself. So I just happen to know how to fix it. I think that's really something that comes along with it, is just that experience. And the confidence really in trusting your own judgment, trusting your gut, and knowing when you have the right decision and when to push that forward. I think another really important thing is, like, I love analogies. Everyone's going to roll their eyes because all my team members know how much I love analogies, but I see leadership kind of as parenting, where if you're too strict and, you're kind of a dictator and you're just like my way or the highway, nothing's going to get done. You're going to lose all your team members and there's going to be low morale and it's going to be awful. But if you're too nice and you're their best friend, then they're going to be running wild and off the walls. So sometimes you really have to be confident with your own decisions and understand that even when you are the bad guy, it's because you're doing it for the good of your team. And hopefully you've built that respect, that mutual respect, where you respect your team members and they respect you just as much, so that you can kind of navigate those situations. In terms of where I'm hoping to go in life with this experience that I've kind of gained, personally, I plan on going into law, which I know makes a lot of sense with leadership experience, but I think no matter where I chose to go, this experience would really benefit me. Leadership at its core is just interacting with other humans and being able to work with them successfully. And that's something that's really important across any industry. Even, if you're just working alone, you're still going to have to talk to external contacts, and you're still going to have to, do collaborations with other companies, and really figuring out how to interact with people and make everyone happy while still staying true to yourself and being confident in your own opinions and ideas is this balance that takes a lot of people time to get, but once you've got it, it really will serve you for kind of the rest of your life. Yeah, so I don't know if there's any questions.
So thank you so much, Mackenzie, for your great presentation. And I'm talking about Enactus as well as your experiences with being a leader.
Mhm.
And finally, we have Artur, who is a fourth-year student at Life Sciences who applied in his interest in 3D printing to become the leading designer at Max Sim Health Group. So he founded the first cycling club in the history of our school, received various research scholarships, and is now working on a startup to revolutionize stimulations in healthcare. So whenever you're ready, Artur.
Thank you for the introduction, Jessica, and hello, everyone. So I'd like to start on telling a little story about my journey. So as most of the students that go to university, my path was sort of chosen by my family and sort of directed for me to become a doctor. And of course, that wasn't necessarily my first interest. And I struggled a lot in first years with motivation, with my grades. So the first semester, first year, my GPA was pretty low, just above a 2.0. And as soon as I started sort of bringing my interest into what I do at school, the next semester, my GPA almost doubled from 2.0 to almost 4.0. And then moving on, I started the first year I started the cycling club. That's what I think is good about our university, is that there still needs to be a lot of development done. So I saw an opportunity and I took it. We created the first cycling club. We applied, collected surveys, collected signatures, and that's how it started. So going into second year, again, my GPA started to go as a roller coaster, losing motivation, gaining motivation. And that's sort of when I started to get interested in dentistry. So as soon as I realized that I have interest in something, I started trying to reach my goal. And the first goal I put was to start shadowing a dentist. And for those who don't know, when applying to dental or medical schools, it is a very useful point on the resume to have that you shadow a dentist or a doctor. I got my opportunity maybe in the first couple of weeks of trying, but it was pretty challenging. So I searched up, and you know, when people say, if you want a job, if you want an opportunity, you just gotta apply to as many places as you can. So that's exactly what I did. I went in person to about 20, 30 dental clinics, dropped off my resume, and to my surprise, I only got a call from one, which was still a success because that was not just a call to interview, that was a call to start shadowing immediately. So I did that, and from that experience, I learned a lot. Talking directly to the owner and to the owner of the clinics and to the dentist, and how their life has turned, what experiences they had. And even they realized that sometimes you got to make choices towards your own interest, towards pursuing your own career. So one of the really interesting applications in dentistry is 3D printing. a lot of people might not know, but that technology is much closer to us than we think. Even in dentistry, there are technologies that allows you to 3D scan your teeth and create custom either replacement teeth or create custom braces, custom sort of any fixes, and then they're 3D printed. So I started slowly to get interested in 3D printing, and again, I realized my goal, and there was an opportunity, and I took it. So I asked my the dentist that I was shadowing to send me to the 3D printing lab, where they actually produce all the dental fixtures, dental replacement parts. So I went there, took a look, saw all the cool stuff, and started sort of working towards it. And that's when the third year came. I realized that still when trying to get into the dental school, I would need some sort of research, some sort of involvement. So I started looking for any scholarships, any awards, and immediately, maybe some of you guys know, I realized this undergraduate NSERC scholarship award for summer research. So again, I emailed as many professors as possible, and I got back only maybe 1 or 2 emails, but those emails were a huge success. So in one email, I got introduced to a professor that actually does 3D printing as a full-on health science research, and that has a lot of opportunities there. So that's when I joined Maxim Health Group and became one of their Maximators. So unfortunately, I didn't get the scholarship because it was extremely competitive, but now I had the connection into the sort of group that were doing research, that had a lot of opportunities, that had constant flow of projects and stuff to do for people. So I started working on it. I started sort of visiting weekly meetings at Maxim Health Group, sort of trying to network a little more. And slowly the opportunities started to reach me again. And it was no longer me looking for opportunities, but the opportunities finding me. And as the COVID hit, there started to become opportunities, even from simple printing, 3D printing PPE stuff like face shields, face masks, all sorts of things like that, to going down to creating the emergency respirators, creating the emergency simulators for health science. So moved on again, and that's when I applied for another scholarship with the help of my already existing contacts, and I received another $6,000 scholarships to work on basically getting paid to do my research and to do my hobby at the same time. So working on the 3D printers, doing exactly what I like, while receiving the research experience that I could apply when going to medical school or dental school. So I've worked there for the summer, taken every possible opportunity, everything that would come. And learning all the 3D printing, I became a person with very specific skill set. So from my program in biological life sciences, I have a lot of knowledge in healthcare. I have a lot of knowledge in anatomy, biology. And from my research, I had the knowledge in 3D printing. So I combined those and became a person with very unique skill set. And I think that's when it started to change. So now it wasn't me any longer looking for research, looking for jobs. It was the people reaching out to me to help them with something, to do something for them. And that's basically how I became the lead designer at Maxim Health. It was about maybe like 6 publications in less than a year, 5 different projects, and coming more every month about another project. Bringing more people to the Maxim Health, bringing more connections, bringing funding towards a group. And of course, expanding our group. So going from 1 lab that we had at school, we now have 3 labs and creating 2 more. It has a whole set of extremely expensive 3D printers, infinite supply of materials, funding, all that to do research to help and to achieve the goals I'm looking to achieve. And that is my story. Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur, for sharing your insightful presentation. It's always good to hear how being a leader is not something that you're born with, but you're taking chances to push yourself out your comfort zone, which allow you to get you where you are today. And that goes for everybody here. And we thank you for your introductions and how your leadership roles changed your life. And over into some general questions we actually have for you. We have a few from our live feed as well as Instagram polls. And we would like to allow each of you to answer the questions if possible. The first one would come from our chat, and that is, how have you grown as a person over the duration of the lockdown? And do you have any tips? So we can start in the order that was presented, if possible, like Corey to Mackenzie to Artur.
Sounds good. Thank you, Jess. It was amazing to hear both of your stories. Mackenzie, you had an amazing story. Artur, it must have been such a journey to get to where you are today, which is something really good to hear. So the question is, how have I improved? Honestly, the pandemic was new to everyone. So I think I've grown as a person, kind of just thinking on my feet, as I talked to you again before. Learning to maybe appreciate things more is definitely something I learned through the pandemic. As a leader, I think it's more important to keep tabs on people. I think that's definitely an important thing that I've learned during the pandemic, especially as a leader. And managing your team was definitely something, a struggle for me finding at first, because everything was online, right? It was really hard to keep tabs on people. When you're in person, you can kind of just talk to them and kind of straight up just confront them. Whereas online, it's really difficult for you to kind of talk to people. If they don't want to answer your text, if they don't want to reply to emails, it's not something that they have to do. So I think I learned what worked and what didn't work kind of in an online scenario. Some tips for that definitely, I think, is creating a big group chat is definitely a big thing to kind of keep tabs on everyone. Meetings are, I think, pretty crucial, especially over on Zoom. Some general kind of connection with people, I think, is really important. Having a conversation is, I think, is a great way for you to interact with your team as a leader. And yeah, I think Mackenzie highlighted how you shouldn't be too strict, but you still have to be strict. So you have to find a good balance of the in between to kind of effectively manage a team and actually have stuff done. Because sometimes, as I learned in the past, it's not really a good idea to maybe have people who you vibe with, as it may not be the best for the team. Thanks, Jess.
All right, so I'm going to be brutally honest here and say that I don't know that I have grown as a person over the lockdown, because it's been a lockdown. I think me, like a lot of people, are just kind of struggling to stay on top of the momentum we built up before that, and that's okay. One thing I have learned the importance of is honesty. I think in this day and age, there's a lot of showboating on social media, and even just when you're talking to your friends, like, oh, I'm doing great, don't worry about me. But sometimes having that honest conversation and saying, like, you know what, today was like kind of a crappy day, even as a leader, people start to see you as a human. It makes it easier for them to come to you and say, I'm really struggling. And that's really how you can help everyone grow and grow yourself. So it's okay to be honest and upfront about what you're struggling with, because that really is the best way to kind of get help. And it's okay to not be growing during a global pandemic either. I personally have just taken a couple like random free courses. I started coding at the beginning, haven't touched it since then. But just keeping my mind active is something that I do suggest. But other than that, it is okay to just be okay.
I guess me. So I'm naturally sort of a hustler, and I'm always looking for opportunities. And one way, as an example, I improved over the quarantine is I started learning about investment. And as some of you may have heard, the stock market have crashed, and I hopped right on and I used the opportunity to learn more about investing, about managing your finances, about understanding how it all works. And of course, yeah, I made a good thing out of it. And yeah, as advice I can give, always keep an eye of opportunities. And when something goes down for somebody, it might go up for another person. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you guys so much for your responses. And also, we do have another question. What qualities make a leader, and what are most important that you think?
Okay. For me, I think the most important quality for a leader is to have conscientiousness. You have to be dependable, reliable, goal-oriented, and kind of have an idea of what you're doing. Because I feel if you don't have an idea of what you're doing, your team's not gonna know what you're doing. So I believe that you should have a goal. You should be reliable. You should be dependent. And I think the second most important quality of being a leader is to be open. I think it's really important to be open to what everyone has to say, what everyone or your team has to say, and pretty much just be open to what you're saying. Because I feel like if you're a very closed-minded individual, it's really hard for you to kind of open your idea to other ideas, right? How are you supposed to work in a team if you're not kind of open to the idea of other ideas, pretty much? And so I think those are one of probably the two most important traits I believe that a leader should have. Being dependable, reliable, goal-oriented, and being open.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of those. I even wrote reliable as the top thing. I think the other qualities that are super important are having empathy, being able to understand the people you're working with, being good with critical thinking. When there's a fire going on and everyone's looking to you to put it out, you can't also be screaming that there's a fire. Being patient, because you're going to be dealing with a lot of new situations with a lot of people who haven't dealt with those situations before. And it's really easy to kind of get frustrated sometimes. But I think if you're just patient and you really focus more about growing your team rather than necessarily your own personal goals sometimes. Like, I think that can really help with that patient side of things, staying goal oriented, and yeah, having that future vision so that when your team is working on tasks, you always kind of know what's coming up next and you're prepared so that when they come to you and say, hey, what do we do next? You have that answer for them.
And for me, I think leadership is mostly about collaborating and collaborating with your team, because that's what makes a leader different from a manager or a boss. The leader actually leads the team and has adequate skill set to be on the same level with them, as well as having qualities such as Corey mentioned, open-mindedness and considering ideas, considering all the team members.
Thank you guys so much for your inputs, Billy. And another question we have is, when trying to be an effective leader, how do you say no to opportunities that you don't have time for, both for yourself and for the person offering you the opportunity?
I think this is a great question. It's something that I've definitely have done before. I'm a pretty proactive person, so I'm on LinkedIn quite often, and there's a lot of people who reach out with opportunities with business and everything. And I'm also in business as well. I do my own kind of things, run my own companies, try to do some startups. So I definitely kind of think this is a really great question to ask, and how people kind of reject it. I feel like if you don't feel like the opportunity is resonating with you, or you really don't have any time, I think you should just be straightforward and tell the person, this isn't maybe a good time for me to conduct this kind of opportunity. Maybe something in the future can kind of work out, but I feel like those opportunities definitely could be there in the future, right? It's definitely something you should kind of keep in the back of your mind in case something else happens. If in the moment it doesn't work, maybe in the future it works out. All the people who's reached out to me previously, I still keep in contact with some of them. I still have them on LinkedIn, I follow them, and everything happens. You still have that connection with that initial relationship with them, and I think that's a really important thing to kind of just keep. So pretty much just straight be honest and say you don't have time for it, or it might not be something you're looking for at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. This is something that I personally have struggled with a lot in my growth as a leadership. I did not know how to say no. I think the biggest thing that helped me with this is starting to treat your time as a currency, especially for a lot of us, like students, recent graduates. What we really have is time. That, like, we don't have a ton of money, we don't have a lot of, nice things, we have time. And your time is super valuable. And when you start treating it as such, saying no to those kinds of things becomes a lot easier. And I think also just, what Corey said is that that's not a closed door. If you can say no now, and then don't be afraid to follow up once you are available. I mean, a lot of times those people are going to be excited that you followed up with them and come back to it later on. But no one will ever be mad at you for saying no. And if they are, then they don't understand, and that's fine. But there will be more opportunities for you for sure. And just, feel confident in that your time is valuable. So take care of it.
As for me, I believe if the opportunity is important enough for you, you will make time for it. And if it's not, then you should just say no. So yeah, manage your time and look for the opportunities, prioritize your opportunities as they come. And if you see the opportunity is really important to you, perhaps considering dropping out of your previous opportunities that compared to the new ones are not even close to them.
For sure, yeah. Thank you guys again for your inputs. And another question we have is, what do you think is the worst and most damaging trait for a leader to have? Or what is a negative trait leaders unknowingly possesses?
I think the worst trait a leader can have is pretty much kind of having too much power, believing they have too much power. I do believe that some leaders um, take the power kind of too much in their head. I believe power is something I believe can make somebody corrupt. Like if people get a hold of power in the wrong hands, I do feel like it might be a little bit cringy, but with great power comes great responsibility, kind of thing. And I do believe that it's definitely something I've seen before. People being corrupt with power, believing that they are better than everyone else. And I think that's one of the worst traits a leader can have, because you shouldn't believe that you're better than everyone else. If you put that kind of standard on yourself, then what does that kind of say about you as a person? And that's a really toxic trait that will lead to people like closed-mindedness, as I said before. You're not willing to hear about what other people have to say, and I just think that it's not a good trait. I think out of all the traits of a leader, I think that is probably the worst I've seen in somebody, being very toxic, being very corrupt with power. That's definitely the worst trait I've seen. So don't really do that. But yeah.
Yeah, those are all good. For me, the major red flag that kind of encompasses all of those bad traits is when someone comes to me and I say, all right, what would you like to learn next? Or what's the next skill you'd like to learn? And they say, oh, I know everything. That's the biggest red flag. Any good leader will admit they don't know everything, but they know who to go to, who does know enough. Any leader who thinks that just because they're in charge, they have the most experience or the most knowledge or they're more skilled than everybody else around them, it's just simply not true. And it's really not an environment that's going to create the best product or service that you're trying to create or even to achieve your goals.
I will agree with Corey and Mackenzie, but I will also like to add one of the worst qualities that a leader can have is perhaps forgetting about self-involvement and not constantly learning, not constantly becoming better than what you were before.
Thank you guys so much for your insight and your opinions on this question. And another question that we have from our chat right now is, what is the best way to accept that you have made a mistake, especially as a leader?
That's another great question. I think the fact that everyone's human, everyone makes mistakes, and the fact is that you're gonna make a mistake in life. There's no way you're gonna go through life living 70, 80 years without making a mistake. That's just very unreasonable. And I think even as a leader, it happens as well. But I think it really depends on how you kind of react to that situation, is how it kind of shows who you are as a leader and your personality. And personally, for me, I would kind of apologize. Why don't you admit to your mistakes, right? I always admit to the mistakes that you make. And I think that's the best route, and find a solution to fix it. I think that's the best way to kind of go about a problem that you kind of created. Admit to your mistake, fix it, and move on. Everyone makes mistakes, and and as long as you find a way to kind of make up for it, I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, 100%. Taking ownership of your mistakes, not trying to put the blame on anyone else, and just kind of admitting it. It really sets the precedent. Also, you act how you want your team members to act. That's how I'd want my team members to act, is to take responsibility. The big difference is when you're in kind of that leadership role is that, I mean, your team's never going to expect you to be perfect, or at least I hope they don't, because as Corey said, we're still human too, but they do expect you to, make the move to fix the problem. So I think being able to not punish yourself and understand that it's more important that you move forward than it is to dwell on the mistake, because you have people relying on you. And it's okay that you made a mistake. They'll forgive you for that, as long as you can, show that you're still committed and, accept it and take responsibility.
Yeah, I can't agree enough with Corey and Mackenzie. 100% spot on. On the mistakes, fix them, improve next time.
I definitely agree with all of you guys as well. And another question that we have is, best way to become a leader or take leadership during the quarantine?
I think Artur mentioned this a lot, but definitely look for opportunities. Even in his story, he went to several, like 30, 40 different dentist offices to kind of get an opportunity. And that's the kind of mindset you need, right? Especially during a quarantine. Definitely put yourself out there, be proactive, look for opportunities. Even during quarantine, there's a lot of opportunities for you to take. There's a lot of micro courses to take. I think Mackenzie highlighted that. I myself even took a few Harvard courses. They're free online Harvard courses to kind of better myself, better your learning. And those are definitely good opportunities for you to put yourself out there, better yourself. And yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Just rack up all the experience you can. Even if it's online experience, that's the new thing, right? People are looking for people that have these online skills. Look for what the new top thing in the industry you're going into is, and see if you can become an expert on it and do some research. Kind of be proactive in that sense. Also, shameless plug, but Enactus is hiring. So we are currently hiring right now during quarantine. So if this is something you are interested in, and you just want to kind of start your journey at the very beginning and grow your skills, definitely check it out. You can visit enactusot.ca/join. Yeah, so that's my shameless plug.
I see a lot of people take the quarantine and COVID as a sort of drawback, but in my opinion, it is a huge advantage, a huge place for opportunities. Just massive place to have any healthcare opportunities, any production, any teaching, everything. Yeah, so the advice I can give is, don't take it as something bad, take it as something that you can make improvement on.
Of course, yes. Thank you guys so much for your input again. And also, we do have another question. What are your leadership styles? And what are some traits that you think make you who you are?
Personally, for me, I think I'm a pretty laid back leadership style. I know there's kind of a couple names for it, like official names, but I'm not too sure what they're called. But I like to involve my team. Personally, I think a team works better than an individual, of course. So I never think of myself as better. I'm always very open to what my team has to say. I'm a very good listener. Although I'm a leader, I'm also a very good listener, and I think that's one of the really important traits, especially working with a team. Because if you're not listening to ideas, then you're not hearing anything, right? You're not hearing input from your team, and you're not putting all these ideas and putting a direction for your whole team to go towards, like a similar goal, compiling those interests. And so, yeah, I'm a kind of like that laid back personality, but I'm efficient. I like to listen to everyone what to hear, and we'll create a plan. That's the kind of person I am.
Yeah, this is hard. I've never had to describe myself as a leader, but I guess I'm kind of a mix between the typical visionary style leader, where I like to collaborate, as Corey mentioned as well, like, and really kind of explain my thought process to members. I think it's always more effective to kind of talk to the person and say, this is my idea, this is my vision for it, rather than just saying, do this. I also really like to coach people up. I find I like to challenge people. And I love, love, love learners. Like some of the team members that I see doing the best are the people that, may not have started out as the most successful on the team, but just kept coming back for more. And I love kind of nurturing those people and helping them to flourish into the people that I know they can be. So that's kind of the leadership style I try to take by encouraging.
I'm definitely also a collaborative leader, like the rest of the group here. But I also like to make an emphasis on bringing out people's potential and sort of letting them do what they love to do, because that will make the team and the project the most successful when everyone does what they like to do and what they're good at.
Thank you guys again so much for your inputs. And as we slowly begin to wrap up, we do have one last question for you. If there is one piece of advice you would like the audience to take away from today, what do you think that would be?
I think that's a really good final question. A final piece of advice, I definitely, for future leaders and I guess for future people, anyone kind of just looking to get involved, I definitely think is to keep an open mind. I think that's the biggest thing I could probably put out there is keep an open mind. You never know what's gonna happen. Be proactive. Definitely put yourself out there. I think is really important to be for a leader as well as looking for opportunities, because opportunities don't come to you, right? You go to them, and I truly believe that. If you put yourself out there, it's definitely a good idea to get started, at least join a club, maybe look for some opportunities within the school. If we're doing shameless plugs, Ontario Tech Science Council is hiring too. Executive positions open up. As I said, OTSU is also hiring, and it's around the time all the clubs are hiring this kind of period. So there's definitely opportunities out there. It's just up to you to grab them. So definitely be proactive.
Yeah, being proactive. I think we can't all state that enough. Like you really have to put yourself out there and be confident. And when I say confident, I don't mean go in the room saying I can't fail. Confidence is going into the room and saying I might fail, but that's okay. I'll laugh it off and I'll come back tomorrow. So I think that's something really important that people need to remember, especially during hard times like this. Another piece of advice that I cannot emphasize enough is if you have someone you admire, if there's someone who inspires you, whether it's a professor, a teacher, someone you've worked with, a student, whether it's one of us or someone else that you saw at a skill series workshop, message them, say, hey, this is me, this is the career I'm interested in going into, blah, 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 blah. You will be absolutely surprised with some of the responses you get. You might not get any responses, but I think as Artur said, it only takes the one that really matters, and it can really make a lot of difference.
Well, to say, if you joined today's session, it already says a lot about you, that you're looking for opportunities and you're trying to achieve something. So the advice I would like to give is, again, I would like to emphasize, keep looking for opportunities, keep doing what you like, and definitely don't give up.
100%. I agree with all of you today. And also, as a wrap up, I want to thank all of you for sharing your stories and your leadership experience with the audience. And we hope everyone enjoyed the workshop and have taken away some points to improve your leadership skills for now and in the future. And also, please feel free to fill out the post survey to help us improve for our future workshops. And also, finally, if you want to join Skill Series and work with the team to create impactful workshop like this one today, you can go to enactusot.ca/join. Again, thank you for the speakers for coming out and taking time out of your busy schedule to join us for this event, as well as everyone watching today.
Thank you, Justin Babick, and thank you, Corey and Artur as well for having me, and thank you everyone watching.
Thank you, everyone, and including Jess specifically for leading this sort of conversation. And everyone have a good one.
Thanks, everyone.